So there's a Prager University video that everyone has been freaking out about. I've seen a whole bunch of people make reply videos already, but I'm gonna go ahead and give you my own take. This video should have been released earlier, but I simply got too busy, so thank God Telltale was able to cover for me. Anyway, let's see what Dennis has to say this time.
Do you believe that good and evil exist?
Good and evil aren't absolute terms. They don't mean anything unless you compare them to something else. Just saying good and evil means nothing. That's like asking the question if someone is pretty or ugly. Sure, by comparing them to, let's say, the average, we could confidently give an answer. But if, hypothetically, you just woke up in an unknown world and you haven't met a single human being, then you see someone and was asked if that person is pretty or ugly. How are you supposed to say when you haven't seen any other faces? You can't even place the definition of pretty or ugly. Similarly, without any comparisons, good and evil don't mean anything by themselves. They are relative terms and don't represent anything objective. In addition, acts that are seen to be good in some cultures may not be in others, so if God set the standard of good and evil, he sure didn't do a good job of it.
The answer to this question separates judeo-christian values from secular values.
I don't see how you reach that conclusion. I know what you're implying, that if you say yes to that question, you have judeo-christian values, and if you say no, you have secular values. However, people with secular values like me wouldn't say no to that question. At least I wouldn't. We can all acknowledge that good and evil exist. The only difference is that we wouldn't acknowledge that objective good and evil exist.
Let me offer the clearest possible example: murder.
Well, of course you would choose murder. That's the easiest one for you guys to argue the case for an objective morality, because almost all cultures agree that murder is wrong. But just because everyone holds the same value doesn't make it objective. If we swapped out murder for, let's say, white lies, suddenly it doesn't seem so objective anymore, does it? Religious folks such as you always seem to choose murder or rape as the example because it makes your flawed point seem more viable when it really isn't.
Is murder wrong? Is it evil?
Well, yes, we would say it's wrong. Normally, but let me pose another scenario. If you were the only one that had the knowledge that someone was going to commit mass genocide tomorrow and the only way to stop him was to murder him, would that be wrong to do so? If you could travel back in time to murder Hitler, would that be wrong? Now, depending on who you are, you would probably answer those questions differently. Context matters too.
Nearly everyone would answer yes, but now I will pose a much harder question. How do you know?
How do I know? Well, there are plenty of ways to answer that question. I believe what you meant to say is, what makes you believe that murder is wrong? In which case, I could say that I got my values from society or from empathy. I don't know that murder is wrong objectively because I don't believe in an objective morality. But what I do know is that it is wrong in nearly all cases in societal standards, in human standards. But at the end, just because a large amount of people would agree on something doesn't make it objective.
I'm sure you think murder is wrong, but how do you know?
Again, I don't know. Nobody knows. People can only make conclusions based on their own morality, and a lot of the time the moralities of different people would overlap. People can easily say that murder is wrong, but nobody knows for sure. So Dennis, despite you claiming so, not even you know that murder is wrong. The only thing you can do is reach the conclusion that it is wrong based on your own morality, or the morality of society, or the morals from your Bible, which I must point out is highly ironic since God just kills a bunch of people for silly shit.
If I asked you how you know that the Earth is round, you would show me photographs from outer space or offer me measurable data.
Ho, careful, Dennis. You're gonna start some beef with the flat earthers with that.
But what photographs could you show? What measurements could you provide that prove that murder or rape or theft is wrong?
Please, the way you're phrasing this is as if there's an objective morality, but we're not the one claiming there is one. You are. So you tell us how you know murder is wrong. And if you say the Bible, I'm gonna strangle someone.
The fact is, you can't.
Right, so we can't prove a claim that we didn't make. Gotcha, atheists.
There are scientific facts, but without God, there are no moral facts.
Let's say that moral facts exist, just to tickle your pickle. In that case, why is it God? Why isn't it Zeus? Why isn't it Vishnu? Heck, why isn't it Professor Stick who created all objective moral facts? You're taking a huge leap there and you're skipping a lot of steps.
In a secular world, there can only be opinions about morality. They may be personal opinions or society's opinions, but only opinions.
The word opinion doesn't really fit here. Opinion would imply that we had our thoughts made ourselves by our own conscious minds. Let's go back to murder. I personally believe that human morality came from millions of years of evolution. Populations that didn't go around killing each other survived better than those that did. This can even be broken down to the individual level. Members of a population that help others are more likely to receive help in return. I believe Cosmic Skeptic did a pretty good video on this. Anyway, due to evolution, we are programmed to have certain morals. The obvious ones, like saying murder is wrong, would be inherited from our ancestors. So is it really an opinion at this point? Not really.
Every atheist philosopher I have read or debated on this subject has acknowledged that if there is no God, there is no objective morality.
Yeah, I don't know who actually says that, but I certainly don't agree. Why is it that your Abrahamic God is the only being who could possibly implement objective morality? Objective morality could have come from any other God, and who says it can't come from even without a God? I don't know what atheists would agree with that statement, but I certainly have a big problem with it.
Judeo-Christian values are predicated on the existence of a God of morality.
A God of morality? Yeah, the same God who commanded someone to be stoned to death for picking up sticks on the wrong day.
In other words, only if there is a God who says murder is murder wrong?
Which is pretty fucked up. You need someone to tell you what's right or wrong. Apparently you can't determine the standards of your own morality by your own damn self. So what, if God didn't exist, you wouldn't have any sense of morality? What kind of shit is that? You're either a horrible person or a delusional one, and you'll continue to be one of those until you can admit that you determine your own morality.
Otherwise, all morality is opinion.
Again, I wouldn't call it opinion. It's more like something that was biologically implemented into us, at least for some of the obvious ones like murder. That's why we also find some sort of morality in animals. Piranhas, for example, won't bite each other. Mice and other mammals actively help each other out. Did God give morals to animals too?
The entire Western world, what we call Western civilization, is based on this understanding.
I won't get into this because it's a little off topic.
Now, let me make two things clear. First, this doesn't mean that if you don't believe in God, you can't be a good person. There are plenty of kind and moral individuals who don't believe in God and Judeo-Christian values.
Ah, so you can be a good person without God. Whew, thanks for clearing that up. However, what does that mean for you? Who cares what kind of things are deemed moral or immoral if it doesn't matter at the end? If there are people who are moral without God and immoral with God, what was the point of God implementing the standards of morality in the first place? In addition, not even everyone follows his objective morals. So what's the point of it all? Is it even objective at that point? How can it even be objective if it doesn't apply to everyone?
But the existence of these good people has nothing to do with the question of whether good and evil really exist if there is no God.
What you said there doesn't even make any sense. So the goodness of atheists have nothing to do with the question of good and evil without a God? What the fuck am I watching? You're implying that the belief of good and evil is required to be moral. That's wrong on so many levels. Why does someone even need to acknowledge or believe those terms to become a moral person? That just doesn't make any sense, and you put no effort into backing up your claim.
Second, there have been plenty of people who believed in God who were not good people. Indeed, more than a few have been evil and have even committed evil in God's name.
What a fucking surprise. People doing bad things in the name of God. So that reinforces my previous statement. Ultimately, people do things that are based on their own morals. A criminal doesn't deem what he or she did to be wrong. Everyone follows their own or society's sense of ethics and morality. Therefore, morality is subjective.
The existence of God doesn't ensure people will do good. I wish it did.
Yep. You know, if religion actually made us better people, I wouldn't be so against it. But so far what I see are just street preachers, priests, and fascists trying to take the rights of others away. I feel like religion is hindering people from embracing progress, and that pisses me off when they implement their religious thoughts into politics or other people's lives.
The existence of God only ensures that good and evil objectively exist and are not merely opinions.
No. God determining things to be good or evil by definition makes it subjective. You people keep saying it's subjective when it really isn't. God, no matter how you look at it, isn't objective. He even fucking changes his mind between the Old and New Testaments. So what, his own objective morality changes over time? Get the fuck out of here.
Without God, we therefore end up with what is known as moral relativism, meaning that morality is not absolute, but only relative to the individual or to the society.
Right, and what's the problem with that?
Without God, the words good and evil are just another way of saying I like and I don't like.
If you put it that way, sure, but this doesn't in any way undermine what we or society deem as moral or immoral. Our sense of right and wrong are still valid and impactful even if they are determined by ourselves. If anything, this is better, because we as a society can pass our own laws and our own rules instead of relying on someone else to do it for us.
If there is no God, the statement murder is evil is the same as the statement I don't like murder.
And when enough people say, I don't like murder, we as a society can agree to punish people who commit that crime. What exactly would be the difference between God saying murder is wrong and us saying murder is wrong? For this specific example at least, they both have the same outcome. Not to mention that God doesn't give us many rules to follow. Like, the commandments don't even tell us not to rape. You mentioned rape is wrong earlier, but God doesn't say anything against it and even condones it in the Bible. So in this case, we are the best to determining the best morals for ourselves. If there's anyone who can tell me what my morals should be, it's myself.
Now, many will argue that you don't need moral absolutes. People won't murder because they don't want to be murdered.
Yeah, it's called empathy. Empathy.
But that argument is just wishful thinking. Hitler, Stalin, and Mao didn't want to be murdered, but that hardly stopped them from murdering about 100 million people.
Well then, maybe because they didn't have empathy. Empathy is a common thing that humans have, but that doesn't mean everyone has it. But let's be real, if objective morality did exist, why do these people even have their own sense of morality? Ah, I see. You're basically saying, oh, my morals that I took from the Bible are the objective morals. I see.
It is not a coincidence that the rejection of judeo-christian values in the Western world by Nazism and communism led to the murder of all these innocent people.
Wait a minute. Okay, so earlier you mentioned that plenty of people have committed crimes in the name of God. These people are just following their own interpretation of the religion. So are they rejecting judeo-christian values? All they're doing is interpreting it differently than you. So why is your interpretation correct? What kind of bullshit is that? On another note, the Nazis kinda, did it in the name of God. So this example doesn't even work here. And this also shows that people can commit crimes simply by a different interpretation of their religion. Explain yourself.
It is also not a coincidence that the first societies in the world to abolish slavery, an institution that existed in every known society in human history, were Western societies rooted in judeo-christian values.
You've got to be fucking kidding me. Okay, yeah, there were some churches that helped slaves escape, but they weren't all one-sided. Plenty of religious people use their holy text as an excuse to keep slaves. Honestly, my history knowledge isn't that great, but even I know that much.
And so were the first societies to affirm universal human rights, to emancipate women, and to proclaim the value of liberty.
And the causation? Does it exist? Honestly, do you think the Bible, being a book that encouraged discrimination and misogyny, would be the reason for emancipation and liberty?
Today, the rejection of judeo-christian values and moral absolutes has led to a world of moral confusion.
Don't use the word confusion. There is no confusion, only differences. So what, when everyone embraces judeo-christian values is when you're happy? That is pretty stupid. Well, people don't like my book and I'm not happy about it. Well. And honestly, I would not like to live in a world where everyone embraced judeo-christian values. If everyone embraced the values set in stone by God, we would have stoning and rape everywhere. Stone someone? Oh, don't worry, he was gay. Raped someone? Don't worry, I paid the father and now she's my wife.
In the New York Times in March 2015, a professor of philosophy confirmed this. He wrote, "What would you say if you found out that our public schools were teaching children that it is not true that it's wrong to kill people for fun? Would you be surprised? I was."
The fuck? In what schools do we have today that even teaches people that murder is wrong? Everyone pretty much already knows. Who needs a teacher to tell them that?
The professor then added, "The overwhelming majority of college freshmen view moral claims as mere opinions."
Thank God those people are rational people.
So then, whatever you believe about God or religion, here is a fact. Without a God who is the source of morality, morality is just a matter of opinion.
Welp, I already addressed that point, so no need to address it twice. We're finally at the end, and I can't believe I made a 15-minute video about morality. How is this topic even still relevant? Okay, well, I'm off to go rape and murder some people now. Peace.